Platonism. According to Platonism, thinking is a spiritual activity in which the non-physical and unchangeable essences of things, known as Platonic forms, and their interrelations are discerned and inspected. This activity is seen as a type of inner speech in which the soul speaks with itself. Platonic forms are seen as universals in a changeless realm separate from the real world. Examples include the forms of goodness and unity. Based on this view, difficulty in thinking comes from being unable to distinguish Platonic forms as original from mere imitations in the sensory world, like distinguishing goodness itself from derivative images of goodness. A problem with this theory is explaining how humans can learn and think about Platonic forms belonging to another realm. Plato himself tried to solve this problem through his theory of recollection, but this depends on many assumptions usually not accepted in modern thought. Aristotelianism. According to this theory, the mind is able to think about something by illustrating the essence of the object of thought, leading to a universal essence. So while thinking about birds, the mind illustrates bird nests. These universals are not seen as Platonic forms existing in a changeless world, but only exist to the extent that they are illustrated. From experience, the mind learns to differentiate universals through abstraction. Two arguments against this theory is that it has problems in accounting for the logical form of thought, and it's not clear how essences or concepts are learned through abstraction. Inner speech theory. Inner speech theory states that thinking involves silently connecting words to form mental sentences. A person's knowledge of their own thoughts can be explained as overhearing one's own silent monologue. Inner speech is often credited as being an important sense similar to hearing sounds, involving the use of language, and making up a process that could be used for real speech. This connection to language is supported by how thinking is usually joined by muscle activity in the speech organs. Opponents of inner speech theory argue that not all types of thinking involve thoughts being accompanied by inner speech, like how daydreaming can lead to non-linguistic thought. This argument relates to the question of whether or not animals are able to think, since only humans have an abundantly complex language, though the existence of non-linguistic thoughts show that some animals are able to think. Language of thought hypothesis. According to this, thinking happens by means of its own mental language that is different from regular language like English or Spanish, but similar in that it has words that are connected to each other by syntax to form sentences. In basic terms, thoughts have syntax just like language. It has been argued that the language of thought hypothesis is the best explanation for how thoughts can have features such as productivity, systematicity, and inferential coherence. Objections to this are based on neural networks, which can produce intelligent behavior without relying on complex systems like language has, and how some mental representations happen non-linguistically, like in the form of pictures. Associationism. As the name implies, associationism is the view that thinking is associated with ideas or images. There are different laws of association involved, such as ideas tending to bring to mind other ideas that are either very similar or the opposite, and that if two ideas are frequently experienced together, experiencing one will cause the experience of the other. Such associations don't guarantee meaningful or rational connections, such as random words being experienced but not leading to anything. Associationism in general has been seen as too far-reaching, as it is not accepted that it can understand all thought and mental processes. Behaviorism. This theory states that thinking involves engaging in certain observable behavior as a reaction to external stimuli. Having a specific thought is the same as having a tendency to behave in a certain way. Since it is easier to study behavioral reactions in organisms than their private mental processes, this view of thinking is motivated by considerations for gathering data and evidence. A problem for behaviorism is that the same thinking individual can behave differently despite being in the same situation as before. Individual thoughts or mental states usually do not relate to one type of behavior, since thinking that a place is fun does not automatically lead to going to that place, since there may be other mental states that inhibit this behavior, like believing that one is too busy to go. Computationalism. These theories of thinking understand thinking as a form of information processing. These views came up with the rise of computers, when various theorists saw thinking as an analogy to computer operations. While this analogy seems intuitive, theorists have struggled to clearly define computation, leading to having difficulty with explaining how thinking is a form of computing. Traditionally, computing is defined in terms of Turing machines, as they can perform any algorithm from a few basic principles, like carrying out instructions from read symbols. Thinking can be like this to perform functions such as deductive reasoning, language processing, decision-making, and motor control. Computationalism claims that thinking is just a form of computation, rather than being similar to it. It has been argued that this theory lacks importance since any physical system can perform computations, and therefore can be seen as thinking. It has also been argued that this theory cannot account for other crucial aspects of human cognition. Thanks for watching.